This 123-kilometre World Heritage Beach has become disgusting, and it's because people have dumped rubbish. It may not be who you think it is. So let's find out what has happened, who has done it, and what can be done about it. This is the largest sand island in the world, and it's a really popular place for four-wheel drivers to come for fishing, tourism, or just some good old four-wheel driving. But the beaches get covered in rubbish. So every year there's a group of passionate four-wheel drivers who come over here and run a whole weekend of cleaning up this amazing place. But the question is, where does all the rubbish come from? It may not be where you think. Now, there is a team that tracks where the rubbish is coming from, but I'll tell you about that in a moment. I'm Mad Matt, and I've been passionately four-wheel driving for nearly 35 years. It was in my first four-wheel drive club where I was taught the value of keeping our bush and our world tidy. It's over 30 years ago when I came to this point for the very first time. This is Sandy Cape. It's the most northern point on Fraser Island. Now, the place has changed quite a bit in those 30 years. We camped just down that side there in a beautiful bush campsite, and we had this place to ourselves for just about a week. One morning we were driving along this beach, and this bay didn't tend to be here. This was a much bigger spit back in those days, but we were driving along the beach and we were turning right to go down the beach on that side when we saw all of these turtle marks where a turtle had been coming up through here, but they were going every which way, crossing over each other, and we thought something's going on here. So we wound up following those turtle tracks, and guess what? We found a turtle out here in the dunes, obviously lost. You see, at night the turtles come up to these beaches and they lay their eggs on this beautiful piece of shoreline here. It's pristine habitat for them. So it had got lost and it couldn't find the ocean, and the sun was out, and basically this poor thing was starting to get cooked. So what we did was we got our snatch strap out and we very carefully were able to hook it around the turtle, and as best we knew how, we dragged it back from out of the dunes right down here behind me on the beach. And I tell you what, as soon as the turtle saw the water, wow, it swam away, and I reckon it's probably still out there to this day. Fraser Island, or the other name for it, is Gari, spelt with a silent K, so it's Kagari if you were to spell it phonetically. But it's a silent K, so we say Gari, and that's the Aboriginal name for the island. Now, it is the largest sand island in the world, and it's located just north of Brisbane on Australia's eastern coast. Fraser Island is the last place on Earth where purebred wild dingoes live. These are an Australian native dog, so their population is protected, and rightly so. They do look kind of scrawny and unkept, but that's how they are in their natural habitat, and they're used to scavenging for food. So make sure if you come to Fraser Island, don't feed the dingoes. So how does such a paradise end up with so much rubbish on its beaches? Well, there's two primary ways, and you may be surprised at just what they are. The team that does the research is called Tangaroa Blue, and they've found out that there's two main areas that the rubbish is coming from. The first is coming from the oceans, and that makes up for about 80% of the debris we find here. And the remaining 20% is coming from campers and people who are using the beaches. I don't have all of the answers, but how do we educate the sad souls that do this to our environment? Did you know that marine debris is actually a major environmental concern in our world's oceans? Now, this can be coming accidentally or intentionally. It can get into the oceans via rivers or other sort of sources, but it's coming from all over the world. So if you're going to clean up the largest sand island in the world, you are going to need a team. And have we got a team for you? Last year was the first year I was involved in the Fraser Island cleanup, and I was so impressed and really felt like I was helping make a difference, I had to come back again this year. The Queensland Four-Wheel Drive Association has been running the cleanup since 2001. This year there are 347 four-wheel drives from 21 four-wheel drive clubs involved. There's a number of businesses that also have decided to come along and sow back into the community that they derive their income from. That means there is 1,562 hands involved in picking up the rubbish. They've picked up over 6.5 tonnes of rubbish and 80,000 pieces of hard plastic. Now that's making an impact to our environment. Let us know about a trip you were on where you had to clean up somebody else's rubbish. It's important that we all get out there in the environment and have a great time, whatever that looks like for us. But it's also important that we understand the impact we have and how we can mitigate that and keep it to a minimum so that we can keep the world looking nice for the next people that come along. Check out some of the other videos I've got on my YouTube channel, like the Reacts playlist, where I react to people in four-wheel drives doing interesting things. I'm Mad Matt. Stay safe on the trails.